Hello and welcome. You're watching a special episode with me, Shavan Sen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost a year into the war that began in Gaza. Of course, this comes in the backdrop of the dastardly attack that was carried out by Hamas. Is the world really prepared for another war that has now begun on the other front? Joining us today is the new Israeli ambassador to India, Reuven Azar. Ambassador, thank you very much for speaking to Republic TV. Let me straight away begin by asking you, we are a year into it, almost a year. When it began, Israel said that there were limited objectives that they wanted to complete. Do you believe that you've met all the objectives of the war that began almost a year back?
Well, thank you, Shavan, for this opportunity. We have achieved some of the objectives. We are not yet achieved all the objectives. I want to remind you that following this atrocious attack by Hamas, our cabinet said very clearly that we want to degrade completely the military capabilities of Hamas. We want to bring back our hostages, and we want to make sure that Hamas won't be able to launch such an attack again in the future. So we have been able to degrade substantially the capabilities of Hamas because we have destroyed multiple factories and stockpiles of missiles. These missiles are no longer a threat towards Israel. We've been able to dismantle regiments and battalions of Hamas terrorists. We have neutralized hundreds of kilometers of tunnels, and we brought back about 150 out of the 250 hostages that were taken by Hamas. So we are now in a tough point in which Hamas refuses to a deal that was offered by the United States and was approved by the UN Security Council, that was confirmed by the spokesperson of the White House. And they are refusing because they want to have the cake and eat it too. They want to keep the hostages. They want to remain in power in the Gaza Strip and be able to attack Israel again. We won't allow that. So we have to be persistent on our goals. Now, regarding the north, as you probably know, there was an unprovoked attack against Israel from Hezbollah on the 8th of October. And frankly, you know, our army wasn't big enough to deal with both threats simultaneously. And that's why we had to sustain our position in the north with limited retaliation until we had the energy and the capability to put an effort, a serious effort that we are doing right now, not only to hurt the capabilities of Hezbollah to attack us, but mainly to implement UN Security Council Resolution 1701 that states very clearly that Hezbollah forces cannot be positioned on our border. They have to withdraw at least to the Litani River, which is a few kilometers to the north. So Hezbollah has been cheating throughout the years. They have been building this tremendous capability that has been supplied by the theocratic radical regime of Iran. And we are making it very clear that we want to bring our citizens back home to the north. Right. We have evacuated about 70,000 people. They deserve to go back to their homes, and we are not going to allow them to go back unless Hezbollah is out of the border.
Ambassador, does Israel essentially believe that they have been able to neutralize Hamas, perhaps in a way that they would not be in a position to carry out any attacks, similar to what we saw on 7th of October?
Well, right now, this is indeed the situation. But, Shavan, what we have to make sure is that Hamas cannot regroup and rearm again. And that's why we have to maintain our presence in the Philadelphia corridor. That's the border between Gaza and the Sinai. So contraband of weapons cannot renew. We have to make sure that Hamas won't be able to rebuild all these weapons factories and get all these supplies that they used to get in the past. So, yes, we have done, I think, a very good job, but this is not the end of the story. We have to have our hostages back home.
There's been a great deal of criticism that Israel has also faced, particularly from your Western allies. Prime Minister here has also spoken about the fact that a resolution is only possible through dialogue and not on the battlefield. Ambassador, how do you really look at the end game vis-a-vis Gaza?
Well, Shavan, throughout the last few decades, we have not only initiated dialogue, we have presented multiple peace proposals to our Palestinian neighbors. Not only that, we have completely withdrawn from the Gaza Strip in 2005. And these radical Islamists took over the Gaza Strip in 2007. They threw out, they massacred their own people, the Fatah leaders and the Palestinian Authority people. They deported them from the Gaza Strip. And they have been attacking us since then. And we've been trying through multiple efforts to create a situation. And we thought that we will succeed in creating a situation in which Gaza decides to stay concentrated on their stability and prosperity. But unfortunately, what Hamas did is they hijacked the entire population, the entire international assistance, only to direct an attack against Israel because they want to destroy the state of Israel. And that is very important to understand. Right. So you can have dialogue with people that want to talk to you, but people that want only to destroy you, you have to destroy them. Because this is the only way in which you will be able to generate a leadership that is more pragmatic, that is more sensible, that is more realistic, and that can actually engage in a serious effort to make peace with the state of Israel.
But Ambassador, if I am to ask you, with regards to the vision that Israel has in terms of bringing peace in the region, what would that be? Because I believe militarily you all have tackled the situation. Politically, how do you take this forward? Because somewhere down the line, you too would want some sort of a solution, resolution to this entire problem. The fight, the war cannot go on.
Exactly. So, look, a prerequisite for political stability is security stability. You cannot have a situation in which you are constantly attacked and simultaneously achieve political stability. It's not going to happen. So we are having, not only in the Palestinian context, but in the general sense, in the region that we live in, we have a lack of political stability because there are radical forces that are working to destroy the state system and the stability in the region. That is coming mainly from Iran, that is sponsoring all these proxies in the region. They are proliferating very dangerous weapons of mass destruction and the technology to produce them to rogue elements like the Houthis in Yemen, like the militias in Iraq, like militias in Syria, like Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and more. So unless there is an effort by the international community to put pressure on Iran to change those policies.
So you're saying the focus right now essentially would only be on Iran because they are, after all, the ones who are backing the rebels. They are the ones who are basically destabilizing this situation.
They are not rebels. These people are terrorists, okay? And they are terrorizing not only the population of Israel. They have killed 500,000 Syrians, okay? They are oppressing their own people. This is the problem that we have. So unless there is a concerted effort to make the Iranian regime change its policies, it's going to be very hard for us. And we will have to use more military power in order to restore stability and peace. Now, the good news is that we have generated a lot of cooperation in the intelligence and security and operative sectors with pragmatic players in the region.
Like who?
Like, for example, the United States under the command of CENTCOM, like Jordan, Egypt, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, etc. So these countries are also concerned from the radical waves in the region, from Iran, from the Muslim Brotherhood, from Al-Qaeda, from ISIS, and they have an interest to create security coordination in order to confront these attacks, and we have seen that very clearly on the 13th of April when Iran launched an unprecedented barrage of drones, missiles, and ballistic missiles against Israel. We have been able to foil that, not only thanks to our own capabilities, the great defense systems that our defense industry created, but also as a result of cooperation with other countries, other air forces from the region and from outside the region. So this building block of security, once it is established, will create political stability, and the combination of both will allow us to also create economic cooperation and prosperity.
Ambassador, I'm quite clear about what you're saying in terms of the military strategy dealing with the current situation. Politically, you're saying that can only happen when Iran basically backs off with the mindset that they have. New Delhi has always been advocating the two-state solution. Do you believe it's a pragmatic solution for Israel at this point in time, or you believe that this is going to take some more time?
Well, in order for it to be a pragmatic solution, it has to be a realistic solution. And there cannot be a realistic solution with creating a terror state controlled by Hamas, because then you will never have peace. So, first of all, we have to defeat the radicals. We have to encircle them. We have to create a solid coalition for pragmatism and peace. And then, of course, we can re-engage in negotiations that will bring to Palestinian self-rule. The Israelis want Palestinian self-rule, but only one that will not threaten the state of Israel. And we have proposed that many times in the past. We were rejected. In the year 2000, we proposed a very generous proposal to Arafat. He rejected and launched the Second Intifada, a wave of suicide bombers. Okay? We proposed that in 2007 and 2008. Okay? We proposed it during the Trump administration, together with the Abraham Accords. So Israel is no doubt a democracy that wants peace and stability. The question is how we are going to overcome the threat that is coming from aggressors, from people that are terrorists and do not respect humanity, do not respect international law, and abuse our norms in order to attack us, murder us, rape us. We have to defend ourselves from these people.
So, Ambassador, you are willing to be on the negotiating table and perhaps once again re-propose what you have done in the past through the Abraham Accord and the fact that there could be a regime change in the United States of America. So do you believe with the changes that are going to take place, perhaps Israel would be on board of coming back on the negotiating table, bringing them also on the negotiating?
We are going to work with any American administration because America is our main ally and friend, and we enjoy vast support from the American people. I have no doubt that with any administration we will engage in trying to pursue our goals, our common goals, which are peace and prosperity. But you have to understand, we have to create a realistic path. You know, speaking about things and ideals is nice, it's beautiful. The question is, how do we achieve the goal realistically? And this is what we have to concentrate in. And you cannot achieve that goal with people that only want to murder you and want to completely derail stability in the region.
Who do you blame for derailing stability in the region?
Well, it's all, as I said, this axis of terror, this octopus that is actually led by the theocratic, radical Islamistic regime in Iran. They have been, in the last 20, 30 years, and especially since 2010, when the Arab world basically collapsed, the Arab system collapsed, they've been entering into the vacuum and actually helping all those rogue elements, all these terrorist organizations. They have been training them, they've been supplying them with weapons, they've been financing them, okay? And their aim is not only to attack the state of Israel. They want to take over the Middle East. They want to be the hegemonic power. They want to fight our democratic values. This is very dangerous, and actually they've been proliferating these weapons even outside the region. Look what's happening now in Ukraine. You have Iranian drones that are falling on European soil. Now, we've been talking with our European friends for the last 20 years, and we warned them against this threat coming from Iran. Right. Unfortunately, not enough pressure was put on Iran to change its policies, and it's about time that this happens.
Ambassador, with your permission, I would like to tell our viewers that perhaps the best person right now to talk about the opening up a new front is you, as someone who served in that very area, who understands the challenges that perhaps Israel faces from the northern side. Opening up a new front brings up a new set of challenges. We saw the strikes that were carried out. There too, you faced another set of criticism by saying that civilians have died. Over 500 people have been killed in the strikes that have been carried out. Israel says that we follow the rules of war. In terms of the fact that Hezbollah is not the Hamas, the fact that for the last 18 years Hezbollah has been planning this, and the fact that in their charter the only single point agenda is destruction of Israel, how do you really think that you will be able to meet any of your objectives of perhaps being crippling the entire military infrastructure of Hezbollah?
Well, we've been preparing for this threat because, Shavan, we take the statements of our enemies very seriously. And therefore, we've been meticulously gathering intelligence regarding all these houses, civilian homes, in which Hezbollah has been hiding and concealing illegally and immorally their missiles. And we targeted in the last 48 hours more than 1,700 military targets in those villages. But before we did that, we sent warnings to the population, including to those who agreed or didn't agree to host these missiles in their homes. Please leave as soon as possible. From the Prime Minister himself to all the bodies of the army, we sent messages, telephone calls, flyers. We burst into their radio systems only to warn them to go out of harm's way. Because the last thing we want to do is to cause death of uninvolved civilians. And thanks to our effort, the number of civilians, tragic as they are, is relatively low, not only to the number of targets that we have targeted, but to the threat that those missiles would have put on Israeli civilians. Because remember, Hamas is committing a double war crime. They are both concealing their missiles in civilian infrastructure, and they are also firing indiscriminately at our citizens in Israel. So we have capabilities. We have shown that in the last few weeks.
But how is it different? 2006, it ended up in a stalemate. In the 80s, we have tried this. It is not an easy target for you. So how is 2024 any different than 2006?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, in 2006, if you remember correctly, we did a limited military operation, but it ended with the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Now, the challenge has been to implement that resolution.
It's a violation from their side.
Right. So they've been infiltrating southern Lebanon and doing all these war crimes, creating a force that would be ready to invade the state of Israel. We just made a strike a few days back, and we wiped off the entire commanding elite of the Radwan forces. That's a force of 15,000 warriors that were ready to invade the state of Israel.
So you've eliminated them?
We eliminated their elite force, okay? So we have the capabilities to defend ourselves. We are very confident that we can achieve our goals, and we want an outcome that will ensure that UN Security Council Resolution 1701 can be implemented. We are not interfering in the politics of Lebanon. Okay. We just want peace on our border. We deserve that. We are entitled to defend ourselves according to international law, and this is exactly what we are doing.
If you had to list out exactly 3 objectives of opening up the northern front, what would that be? One, as I understand, the elimination of the military leadership. What are the other 2? Because in the past we have seen your tanks had rolled in. Are you also once again thinking of a ground invasion?
Well, we don't want to actually have any more military operations. We would agree to stop the war right now. You know, we've been trying for the last 11 months since
they will not stop firing at you.
Fire. We've been trying.
They would not
with
stop.
Our American friends to create a situation in which we have a diplomatic outcome. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And we couldn't allow 70,000 of our people to go back to their homes. So we are very clear. We are going to escalate until we reach an agreement to implement Security Council Resolution 1701. And what that might include is up to our cabinet and our defense forces to plan and decide.
Your defense minister, when he made a statement yesterday, he was elated about the fact that this is perhaps a master stroke, many would say. Do you believe that it is still going to see some resistance, some more challenges, because Hezbollah is not going to stop? Let's be very clear that that is exactly why they are in the first place. So what do you really do about it? Would the military infrastructure being crippled, would that be enough, or there is something more to it?
Well, Shaban, we will never surrender to terrorists, okay? So terrorists, they have the advantage, sort of advantage, of not only breaking any rule in the book of humanity, but also that they are willing to sacrifice their own people and the land they are living in for the sake of their cause. Right. But that is not going to bring us to surrender. We will going to continue doing what we're doing. And I remind you, at the end of the day, in 2006, we reached a resolution. We reached a situation in which we had a political settlement. Okay? It wasn't peace. We didn't sign peace with Lebanon. We would like to sign peace with Lebanon. But right now, our aspiration is just to restore stability to the border. And this is not actually something that is either illegitimate or is impossible to achieve. We believe that it is possible to achieve, and we are going to employ military pressure, and we are urging all our friends to put pressure on the Lebanese government, on the Iranians, and indirectly on Hezbollah itself to stop this aggression.
How big is this a threat? Some reports suggest the missile stockpile that they have over the last few years is difficult to even describe. Ambassador, I want you to just help our viewers understand why this is emerging to be yet another big threat, not only for Israel, for the entire region.
Well, you know, what we saw in the past is that you would have either conventional wars between armies of states when there is conflict, or that you have terrorists that are attacking countries. Okay? What we have now in the Middle East is terrorist organizations that actually possess technologies and capabilities that actually supersede the capabilities of conventional armies. And this is why it's so challenging. You have, for example, accurate missiles that are challenging our defense systems. Now, Israel has developed the best anti-missile defense systems in the world that are foiling about 95% of the missiles that are being fired at Israel. But still, when you develop accurate missiles, you can create a situation in which these systems are challenged and sometimes fail, because accurate missiles can, when are fired simultaneously, can cause a lot of damage. So Israel has been trying since the beginning of this initiative in the last week to degrade the stockpiles of Hezbollah missiles. And we have hit, according to estimations, thousands or even tens of thousands of missiles. Now, the stockpile of Hezbollah before the war is estimated between 150 and 200,000 missiles. So they still have capability. This is an ongoing effort. We'll have to continue inflicting damage. We'll have to continue to put pressure until they agree to restore stability according UN Security Council resolutions.
Ambassador, one final question that I want to take from you is with regards to India's role in this. You've already seen the kind of statements that the Prime Minister has made. India's action in the United Nations in terms of the abstention from the resolution that was being passed. Do you believe that India can play a much more bigger role in trying to diffuse the situation or perhaps act as a peacemaker? Is that what Israel wants, or would you just simply say that let India decide what they want to?
Well, first of all, we are grateful for the position of the Indian government and their support, their condemnation of the atrocious attack on the 7th of October, and their support for our right of self-defense. We also appreciate the positive role of India in the international arena in general, and specifically in the last week, the fact that they didn't support this outrageous resolution that you have in the UN, an organization that is completely rigged by countries that are, interested in their own interests, but not in peace and stability. And they are willing to support all kinds of distorted resolutions that delegitimize the state of Israel. So the fact that India has refrained from supporting such a resolution is very important to us, and we are grateful for that. Now, according to, we are going to have to see what India is interested in doing. At the end of the day, we have a very good dialogue between our governments, between our prime ministers. They speak from time to time. And if there is an initiative to have any kind of involvement, it is going to be discussed in close quarters.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador, for speaking to Republic TV. This, after all, is your first interview with us. We wish you all the very best as you start a stint here in India. And thank you very much for being extremely candid on various issues. That was the Ambassador speaking largely about the objectives that have been met so far and why exactly there is a need for opening up yet another front and what is it that Israel aims to do.